Hi, this is your host, Lori Moilov on the Limitless podcast. And today I have a special guest. Her name is Vicki Lynn Smith. And Vicki Lynn Smith is a clinical mental health counselor, a licensed professional counselor, a national certified counselor, a certified clinical trauma professional, a Reiki master teacher, and an advanced certified Igala mental health professional and Equine specialist. Vicki, I was wondering if you could kind of go into what that is, because I know some of our listeners might not know what Igala mental health is or Equine. So I was wondering if you can kind of touch upon that.
Yeah, sure. So equine assisted psychotherapy is just a modality for healing, just like in traditional talk therapy. Anything that you can do in an office with a therapist, you can do in the space with horses. It's just very different and very, very powerful. So EGALA is the Equine Assisted Growth and Learning Association. That's where I got certified through originally as a horse person. Finding it hard to find therapists who wanted to get into the space.
Mm-hmm.
So I went back to school and became a therapist myself. So I got my master's in clinical mental health counseling. And I work a lot in substance abuse, victims of sex trafficking, high trauma, anxiety, depression, female military vets. And it's just such a great a venue for healing because you don't have to do a lot of talking. You're just really building a connection with the horses, and horses are hyper vigilant. They're prey animals, so they're really in tune to their surroundings. So we can really learn a lot through the body language of a horse, which is really cool. Our clients learn a lot through the body language of the horse. And part of, I think, of what is difficult in our process is being able to tell our story and get our story out there. And so this gives the clients the ability to do that through the horse. So it's like, I always think of, we had to write an article in order for me to get advanced certified. And I called it asking for a friend, because it's always like, like when we ask for a friend, it's kind of like that release of pressure. We all know that you're for yourself, but you're just saying asking for a friend is like a release of pressure. So it's a metaphorical model. And we just kind of, bring attention to in a very general way, much like we're writing sync lyrics. We're not specific. In a very general way, and then the clients can interpret that in the way that they need to interpret that to be able to tell their story and get their story out.
Wow, that's so interesting. And I also find, like, with therapy and creativity, I feel those two vehicles kind of coincide. I was wondering if you can kind of go into how therapy and also creativity kind of weave its way when you're working with clients.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny, I started working with children when I was doing talk therapy, and all of a sudden it just started, I became the person that got all of the kiddos that were into acting and music and performing and things like that. And I think a lot of, we get so caught up in our heads, in our thoughts. We're not wired to have healthy thinking patterns. Unfortunately, we're wired to have unhealthy thinking patterns. So we let these thoughts kind of rule what we're doing and how we're doing it. And they can really, put a damper on our creativity. So being able to really work with those thought patterns, a lot of times those thoughts aren't even real. They're just something that we've created, like, this song is going to suck, or this, I can't paint, or, whatever we're getting caught up in. It's really rethinking those patterns. I have assistants. You can probably hear them in the background.
Yeah, a few dogs.
Yeah, absolutely. The joys of working from home during COVID times, right?
Yes.
The non-traditional alarm systems that we have in place. So, so I think, helping people, work through those thinking patterns and develop new thinking patterns, coming up with coping skills and grounding techniques can be really helpful. Working on self-care. And I think as creatives, I think self-care is really a place where we don't give enough focus, because we're always striving to get the next song done, the next deadline, whatever that looks like for us. The next book written, and we forget about taking care of ourselves. And for whatever reason, we feel guilty sometimes when we we're taking care of ourselves. There's like, well, so and so needs me, or this needs me, or that needs my attention, and we feel guilty about it. So I always remind people that self-care is really giving the world the best of us, and
Hmm.
not just the rest of us.
Wow, that's an amazing saying, and I totally agree with that because especially as creatives, we get really busy or we get too caught up in our head and we try to like stretch ourselves maybe way too thin, and it's all about cutting back and creating those boundaries. And I was wondering if you could kind of go into ways that creatives can create boundaries and healthy measures to make sure that they, are doing the right things for their self-care.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, there's, drink your water, get enough sleep, eat right, get
Uh-huh.
some exercise. There's all of those things, but it's really, like taking a break. And, when we do get stuck or we feel, that's when we get stuck, that's our body saying, take a second, take a second, walk away for 5 minutes, take a walk, get some fresh air, you know, pet your dog. For me, I go outside and hug my horse, whatever it is that you need to do to take a break, talk to a friend, um, do something different. Maybe it's just color. Maybe you just need something kind of like mindless to do for a few minutes. And
Mhm.
I have coloring books. I color, break. Or and even breathing. Like
Mhm.
a lot of people talk about taking deep breaths, and one of the big things that I notice is people oftentimes, like, you see them take their deep breaths and you can see their chest rising.
Yeah.
I always like to tell people that, actually when you breathe through your chest, you're increasing your anxiety. So
Mm.
you really want to be breathing through your belly. And for, those that sing, breathing through your diaphragm is really you want to be breathing anyway. So it's
Yeah.
win-win. So really getting into that habit of breathing through your diaphragm, that's really where you're going to reduce your stress and take a few minutes. Distracting techniques can be really helpful too.
Mm.
Like just little grounding techniques to get you out of your head for a few minutes. Like a one that works really well is 5 things. So you just think 5 things you can see,
Mhm.
4 things you can hear, 3 things you can touch, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing that you can taste. And I always
Mhm.
tell people, don't get caught up in the order of how many of what, because then you're like
Yeah.
back in just whatever. And working with kiddos, I actually
Mhm.
simplified it. You know, just do colors of the rainbow. Look around the room,
Mhm.
something that's red, something that's orange, yellow, green.
Mhm.
That's a lot easier to remember. And that's
Mhm.
just getting you out of your head for a second and getting you in the
Mm.
moment,
Yeah.
getting you that moment. And then once you're in that moment, you can just think a little bit clearly. You can think a little more rationally. You can take a deep breath and then get back to what you were doing with a different perspective. And sometimes you can, talk to a friend, talk to a peer, and it doesn't have to
Mhm.
be somebody. It doesn't like, oh, I'm really stuck in this song, I need to call Lori because she's going to
Mhm.
understand where I'm doing it. It might be
Yeah.
calling somebody else who's not a musician, who's not an
Mhm.
artist, and getting a different perspective on things that
Mm.
can be helpful too.
Yeah. Wow, that's interesting way of like diving into the moment, taking that moment. And I know like especially for creatives, one thing is, sometimes we get in a moment of anxiety, depression, maybe even nervousness. Like I know some people, I'm included in this, is we're getting ready to jump on stage or perform, whether that's virtual or at a stage setting. And we get nervous, and we're like, oh my gosh, and there's ways to, I guess, handle that, just like you were saying, taking yourself and thinking of the moment or breathing. Is there any other tips you have for, creatives that are just maybe they're kind of in a funk or, dealing with anxiety? What things can kind of help them?
Yeah, I think really focusing on mindfulness and meditation can be really super helpful. I know a lot of people have trouble meditating because they're like, I can't keep my mind silent. It's impossible. Well, you know what? It's impossible for me too. I'm a
Mhm.
certified meditation instructor. Possible for me too. It's impossible for everybody. So the trick is to really just acknowledge those thoughts. You're going to have thoughts
Mhm.
while you're trying to meditate. Acknowledge them. Say, oh, okay, put that in the bucket for later. don't beat yourself up about it.
Yeah.
That's the reality. That's going to happen. And just really taking that time to do some meditation is really good for your creativity. It's really good for your confidence. Having mantras or affirmations are really good too. I have sticky notes all over my bathroom window, because that's the mirror, because that's the mirror that I see the most in my life, my bathroom mirror. So there's affirmation there, and the more that we put it out there in the universe, the more that we tell ourselves the things, then eventually we change our mindset, and being able to change our mindset. And the other thing is just, go up there, do it, do you, be your authentic self. And what's the worst case scenario? You play a wrong note, you sing a wrong word. Most of the time, nobody notices. You're the only one who notices, right? And what's the worst case scenario? You made a mistake and you keep going. You just keep going. And then that's an opportunity for other people to be like, wow, it's okay to make a mistake. But look how she kept going. That is like so stinking cool. And that's really what's going to grab their attention, that you had the ability to work through that and keep going and keep smiling. And that eases such a lot, a lot of pressure for the next person who's going to go up there. They're like, wow, it's okay.
Yeah.
No one ever died from playing the wrong note or singing the wrong word.
Right.
Just be yourself and just have fun. Just have fun.
I totally agree with you, because there's been times where it's like, I wrote this song and how did I mess up on a word that I wrote? And I just keep moving forward. And I think that's the most important thing, especially for creatives, is just, to keep pushing yourself through, even when it is difficult, and practicing mindfulness for sure. And even when we get those thoughts of oh, I'm thinking too much while I'm meditating, it's just let those thoughts be, and just, continue in the practice. And I think that's the thing, is consistently continuing in your practice, whatever that is, that helps you stay grounded. Because with creatives, we love doing a lot of different things. And sometimes, that stretches you too thin. So you have to learn that balance. Definitely.
And definitely just, really work on improv skills, using what you have in the moment and just going with it. It's like, okay, I'm in the middle of this podcast and the dogs start barking. Oh my gosh, do I go into crisis mode? Oh, I can't believe this is happening in this moment. Or acknowledge it and just move forward and laugh about it.
Yeah. So true. And believe me, I think the funny thing is, especially in the Zoom era we're living in, there's a lot of dogs barking. There's, kids coming in and out of rooms and all sorts of distractions and things. And it's that's normal, and it's fine. And I think the thing is, we try to create this thing of perfection. And I think some of the best art that I know is imperfect. There are flaws, or, just the way that someone sang that was so unique that it wasn't on the right, it didn't fit right, but it did, and I think that's what's so important, is just, embracing the imperfection, especially as creatives. It can be challenging to do that, because we want it perfect. We want it just right. And if you get in that, you get in a paralysis and then you're never sharing your creativity. And I think that's what's so important, is to keep sharing, because just like you said, the next person that jumps on stage, they're inspired and they keep going. So it kind of helps us all move along in our creative endeavors.
Yeah, absolutely. I wrote a song not too long ago, and the line in the chorus is, expectations brought me down. I let them go, and now I'm free.
Wow. That's such a deep lyric. And I think that's something that I wanted to share more with our listeners, is how you're also a songwriter, and you've been, diving into sync. And I just wanted to congratulate you on your recent sync. I was wondering if you could kind of talk about that, and maybe share about how creatives can share their wins.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been a musician my whole life. I started playing guitar when I was 7. And then I became an adult and had children, and music kind of took a back burner for a little while, but then I brought it back into my life. And just as I was really going back into life, COVID hit. And then I was like, okay, well, I can't play out. I can't even take lessons. I can't do anything. So it was just really just finding out how to do what I love differently. And that's how I landed in sync. Um, and we just talked about how you were the first person I met in that journey, which was
Yeah.
cool. And just, I wasn't really sure what sync was. I didn't really know. I just felt this strong passion and desire to be there. And so I learned along the way. And one of the most important things for me as a songwriter, my why, is just
Mhm,
to really
mhm,
be able to give people music is just, people really latch on to music through hard times, through good times,
mhm,
really give, people hope and inspire people. And it's really important to me. And yeah, recently we had a song. We were thrown in a song carousel with three random
mhm,
people, and we had an hour to write a song. And that song was called "Be Brave"
mhm.
with Andreas and Jordan. And yeah, that was just played on The Young and the Restless. So that was just really super cool. Of just, I've been going nonstop for the past year, just showing up
Mhm,
every single day, just working hard, knowing that the process was going to take a while, but not giving up, really believing in
mhm,
myself and my co-writers. And right at the same time that I got that sync, um, a really good friend of mine lost her son,
mhm.
and it was a really difficult time for her. And we had just released our EP, and Be Brave was
Mhm.
one of the songs. And when I went to the wake, the first thing she said to me was like, "Vicki," she said, "Be brave is what's getting me through right now." And her husband
Wow.
said, "I can't tell you how proud she is of you. She is so proud
Mhm.
of you and how much this song means to us right now." Um, and I could hear other people in the background going, "Oh, that's the woman with the song." So
Wow.
it's even more important to me, the sync, is to be able that we were able to get that song out there, and that it meant
Yeah.
something, that it helped something through such a hard time. So it's such a,
Yeah.
I consider being able to write a song such a gift.
It definitely is. And like the lives that it touches, whether it's a family helping through a hard time or just that one person that sparks another light in them to write another song, right?
Yep.
I think that's it. Like it's about uplifting and sharing that gift. And what's so cool about creativity is we all have different walks of life of like and different areas of creativity, and sharing that inspires, we each are inspiring each other, whether it's you just watched a TV show and this actress inspired you, which then inspired a song. There's
Right.
so many ways to keep inspiration going and creativity flowing. And I usually ask all of my guests, and Vicki, I was wondering, what is your one word that coincides with creativity? What would that one word be for you?
That one word would be believe.
Belief. Well,
Believing in myself, believing in each other.
so true. I think it's the power of belief and believing in yourself and, believing in your fellow creative community that keeps us like going and going strong, right? Because together as creatives, we're all limitless and we can help like inspire each other. And each time we release something or share something creative, whether that's words of wisdom or a song or film or TV, we're
Yeah.
inspiring each other to keep moving, keep going, and keep being creative. Vicki, I was wondering, where can some of our listeners kind of come and follow you, find you, connect? Maybe they're interested in, some therapy services. They want to come hang out with some horses. Where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook, Vicki Lynn Smith, or Vicki Lynn Music on Instagram. My website is vickylynnmusic.me. And definitely reach out to me if you have any questions or you're looking for support. Even if it's not in my area, I can help you find support wherever you are. Also working on either a workshop or a class, some kind of support resources for creatives. So that's a work in progress right now, because I really feel like as creatives, it's a population that we really need support, and
Yeah.
um, nobody really focuses on that population. So I think it's really important to create some sort of support system and help people with skills and things like that. So that's something I'm working on as well. If anyone is interested or has any ideas on that, what would be helpful for them, definitely reach out. Definitely reach out, and I'll incorporate that, because this is really, it's really about all of you
Mhm.
creative, and how can I support you?
Yeah, I feel like it's so true, like especially within our creative community and our limitless listeners. Like it's all about, being that spark, creating, sharing. Also, as you said, believing in yourself, believing in your community, and supporting each other. So, Vicki, thanks so much for sharing these amazing tips. I know whether that's breathing, how to handle your depression and anxiety, finding the rule. I think it was like the 5-4-3-2-1 rule. Like all those were very helpful, and I know that our listeners will have gained so much from you coming. So, thank you so much, Vicki, for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
I know this was so much fun, and I can't wait for your workshop. And I definitely will make sure to share with our listeners how they can get in touch and join the workshop coming up.